Hare Krishna, dear devotees. My obeisances to all of you. Vanchakalpa, Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha, Patitanang Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Everybody know the basic translation of that prayer? Vanchakalpa, Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha, Patitanang Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. That I offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnavas who Kripa Sindhu, their devotees are Kripa Sindhu. Kripa means mercy, Sindhu means ocean. They're like devotees are like an ocean of mercy. And and also Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha. So it also means that the Vaishnava is like a desire tree. And where do desire trees grow? Anybody know? What region? Do they like the tropics? Do they like the moderate or temperate? Maybe the desert?
Mm-hmm.
Carol,
I think they grow everywhere.
You ever seen it? They grow everywhere? They're everywhere where a Vaishnava is, because they're like a desire tree. Desire trees will give you anything you want. Now, of course, they're only accessible to devotees. It only works for devotees. And so they give you whatever you desire. What kind of things would a devotee ever desire? If you could go up to if you walked into a Kalpavriksha tree and says, "Hi, I'm a Kalpavriksha tree," and you're a devotee, what would you like? Carol, what would we ask for?
A guru.
That's a great answer. I like that one. Yeah, that's where it all starts. We've been Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai bhakti-lata-bija. That means that we've been traveling from universe to universe, creation, destruction, for uncountable time. It's beyond calculating. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai bhakti-lata-bija. But the greatest thing that one can obtain in this whole journey, the only thing that has any meaning, really, is when we come in contact with a devotee, a guru, when we find a guru. That's when it all begins. And there's another beautiful verse, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi. Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi, Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. So that means that Sadhu Sangha, associating with the Sadhu, Guru. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi. That means all the shastras, all the scriptures declare that that Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Hoy means to have, something like that. I'm not expert in Bengali. Sarva Siddhi Hoy. They can give you all perfection. Sarva Siddhi, all perfections, the topmost. So that first verse I was quoting, that traveling around the universe, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai bhakti-lata-bija. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru. By the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. And the Guru plants within the heart of the disciple or student the bhakti-lata-bija. Bija means seed, and bhakti-lata means the bhakti creeper. It's like a creeper. And creepers are not like trees. They grow around something, yeah? So they wrap around first. In fact, just the other day, I've had these beautiful Song of India plants I have growing. And I noticed there's some creepers coming in, and I had to take them off. One of them was actually walking around Tulsi. I was trying to, so that wasn't a good creeper. That was like an uninvited creeper. But we're talking about the creeper of devotion. And how does it climb up? What does it go? It goes, well, first it's got to start at the bottom, right, of something. So we say the bhakti-lata-bija starts at the lotus feet of the guru, and it travels around that guru, and it goes all the way back, and it bears its fruit in the spiritual world. So, and interestingly, it's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in another interesting way. Well, actually, several things are said about the bhakti-lata-bija. One that I like, it's describing that one must take the bhakti-lata-bija and plant it in the heart, but for it to grow, it needs nourishment, right? Anybody who's ever done any farming, there's two things you need to do. You need to fertilize, you need to water, and you need to keep the bugs away. Wasn't it, Francia was just asking me the other day about what do you do with critters? Apparently you had some little critters on your plant.
I put the whole plant in the garbage bag.
Oh,
Sorry about that. It was too much for the neem.
okay, got it. Yeah, it's interesting. Neem is probably Lakshman probably knows a lot about neem. Lakshman, is that something you know a lot about? Neem oil.
Yeah, it's an microbial antiviral for the body, but also it's used for the plants as well, for Tulsi, the oil, the spray.
Yeah.
But it's a strong it's very, very bitter, medicinal. Good for the skin. Good for the skin, too.
Oh.
And who do we know that got a name that was named after the neem tree? Can we think of any famous person that got the name after a neem tree?
That's not Nimai, is it?
Nimai, yeah.
Really? I didn't know that was.
Yeah. And why do you think he got the name? I mean, that's kind of unusual. It's a medicinal plant, but why did he get that name?
I don't know. I'm wondering
Tree.
because it gives so much. I wonder if it's like a desire tree. I don't know.
Lakshman, were you going to try something? What was your?
My understanding was he was born under a neem tree.
He was born under a neem tree.
Mm.
He was born under a neem tree. Yeah, you got it. He was born under a neem tree, therefore he got the name Nimai. Nimai Pandit. And, well, he wasn't called Nimai Pandit when he was really little, but he went through a stage, almost kind of like adolescence, maybe we could say, where they called him Nimai Pandit. What was the problem when he was Nimai Pandit? he was brilliant. He could defeat anyone. But there were some issues with him.
Was he part of the Mayavadi school?
Not at that stage.
Okay.
He did later, when he took sannyas, he took in the Mayavadi line so that people would follow him. So he could convert the Mayavadis. When Nimai was young, he was an incredible scholar, brilliant. But he had one flaw. He was God. How can God have a flaw? But he had a flaw. Of course, Krishna had a lot of flaws too, right? He was naughty. He would steal. He wouldn't always tell the truth, make things up. So Nimai, he was a little proud.
Mm-hmm.
He was a little bit proud, and he wasn't particularly devotional. I mean, as a kid, he started out. He was always making, especially as a baby, he would cry and cry until people started chanting Hare Krishna, and there's all kinds of positive stuff in that regard. Now, by the way, understand we're talking about God, so this is, we got to have some little deep understanding. Nimai was proud, and he wasn't particularly devotional. And the devotees were all saying, if we just got to get he's brilliant. If we could turn him into a real devotee. He knew the shastra like anything, but he wasn't that devotional. Why is that? Why do you think he would go through a stage like that? Interesting question, yeah?
Mm.
And it's described that he came to teach. He came to teach us. He came to teach. There's a beautiful verse. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shishartamikam Purushak Puranam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dadi Kripambudar Yestra Maham Prabhajay. This was written by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He says, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who came in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us real knowledge, his devotional service, and detachment from whatever does not foster Krishna consciousness. He is descended because he is an ocean of mercy. Therefore, I take shelter at his lotus feet. He came to teach us. But he's teaching the wrong thing. Why? Because he wanted to teach us the most important lesson. Nobody knows the answer. Surprised.
Well, I mean, this may not be correct. I'm thinking that he came to teach us about becoming a devotee. How do you become a devotee if you do not first experience lack of devotion, teaching us how to really develop devotion? Now, I don't know, but
You're on the right track.
like Jesus came to completely embody all of our experience. So why wouldn't he embody what it's like to not be a devotee so he can show us the glories of becoming such a sincere devotee? I don't know.
Okay. What he did was he wanted to teach us the importance of a guru.
Mm.
So when his father passed the world, he went to Gaya to perform the ceremonies. And that's where he met his guru, Isvara Puri. As soon as he met his guru, he completely changed. He was completely full of devotion. And when he went back home, he was freaking out. All his students, they were like, what's wrong with him? Every single word, as he was translating, he tied it to Krishna, devotionally. He completely changed. So that was a great lesson.
Hmm.
That's a really important lesson that he taught. How did we get on this topic?
You
I'm glad I
asked about desire trees and about if you had a desire tree, what would you ask for?
Well, you also mentioned the mites that I had and needing the neem oil.
Well, I really like Carol's answer. Carol's answer was spot on. Guru. So he taught us. I think that's how I went on that lesson, or somehow I just kind of lucked into it with saying something else. But yeah, and funny, I was thinking of that. You want a treat? You want to see a picture of me sitting in Peacock Park in 1972 in Miami? It was a park. And this is where my spiritual life really began. This is where I met Abhirama, who was, back then, there was just Prabhupada and then the teachers. And clearly he was my guru. And he took me under his wing and so on. So I want to show, let me see. Somebody sent me this picture. I couldn't believe it. I'm going to share my screen. Share. Actually, let me bring it up. Let me find it first. And I'll share my screen and you'll... I was amazed. This picture just came. Okay, let me find it. Let me go into... It's not going to be that hard to find because I put it somewhere cool. Go into here. And then... Let me go into... Where is it? Cool stuff. Here. Here. Okay. Now I can take you there. So let's go back to Zoom. Back to meeting. Share screen. Share. Anybody see my screen?
Yeah,
Let me move some stuff out of the way here.
that's a great picture.
This was 1972. I don't remember what time of the year it was, but this was in Peacock Park. And this is where I met Abhirama. And was Vishnu Jana, I met him. But Abhiram, he just took me under his wing, and he had just come to town. He wasn't the temple president at that time. He was just visiting. And then, long story short, he became the temple president. He was every Sunday I would go I would come to the Sunday feast, and I'd be looking for him, and he'd be looking for me. And I'd write a big list of questions every week. I would write down questions because I had questions of things I was reading. I had already read the Bhagavad Gita, So, but I still had lots of questions. And then Avirama gave me 3 books that was they were the original books that came in Prabhupada's trunk of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so I was reading through those books that Prabhupada brought here in the ship. And so I would write down my questions, and we just have these just wonderful discussions. And then he nurtured me as a teacher and a very, very dear friend for 3 years that he was the president. And then he was called on to India. And this guy here that you see with the long hair became the temple president of a major temple. So anyway, that brings back a lot of memories, that picture.
It's a great picture.
Yeah, anyway, all right, enough of that. Let's go back to our class here. Go back to, how do we get out of here? Stop share. Okay, now I'm back in Zoom. Cool. All right, so now we know about Nimai, why he was proud, and why the devotees were disturbed. But it's when he met his guru, he completely changed. And I can say that I completely changed. Now, I would say those of you with the Christian backgrounds that had found Jesus, that was the beginning. You're already changing. I mean, this was already you really found your guru. Jesus is, in fact, acknowledged by all the teachers in our line as guru. Empowered and completely empowered by Krishna. So when you truly accepted Jesus in your hearts, it was already starting to happen. And so anyway, so anyway, those are some things about Nimai. We have a few questions. I got a question from Lakshman, and I got a question from Francia, and I got a question from Carol. Did anybody else send a question that I didn't see? Because sometimes you sneak them in at the last minute. Okay. All right. So let's look at some of the questions. Okay, this is an interesting question. I can't take it too far, but Lakshman Prabhu, you want to read your question? I have it here, but you're a good reader.
Hare Krishna Guru Dev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I wonder if Srila Prabhupada or other devotees have ever commented, other devotees have commented on the Brahma substance that is said to be within Lord Jagannath in Puri.
By the way, that substance it's called Brahma-padartha. I think padartha in Sanskrit means substance, spiritual substance.
So Brahma-padartha that is said to be within Lord Jagannath in Puri and transferred every 12 or so years. What I understand is that when Lord Krishna concluded his pastimes on earth and left the body for the atheists, his heart remained unburned, and this is what is within Lord Jagannath in Puri. I have heard variations and wondered if Srila Prabhupada or other devotees have ever commented on this. Thank you, Gurudev.
Well, to my knowledge, Prabhupada never mentioned it. He certainly did not in his books, because I would have remembered. Now, could he have answered some question and some, I haven't heard not everything was recorded that he said. But I can tell you this, anything important is in Prabhupada's books. Anything we really need. And so he never talked about it. It was never mentioned. And my understanding is that there's many different versions of answers to this. And I don't think, to my knowledge, there's nothing clear in the shastras that we have. So, but I've heard of it, but I don't think it's important. I don't think it's important. It's nothing important that we need to know about, because there's some. But I know there's many versions, and but it's really not an important question, because any question I'll give you would just be some version of. I mean, a lot of it doesn't make sense. Some of the versions I've heard, like for example, Krishna left a material body behind. Well, if it was a material body, I mean, it's nothing from him, because he didn't have him. He was totally spiritual. So there's, something about the heart, and when the body was cremated, which I don't even know if that's true or not, but the things that I've kind of heard, that the body was cremated, but the heart didn't burn up, so they took the heart from this material body and they called it something spiritual, and somehow it was put inside of Jagannath, and it's still there alive today. It represents Krishna. But how can it represent Krishna when it's just something material? So anyway, I can't say much about it because I don't know much, and I've also heard that amongst the priests, the Brahmin priests, it's something they're very secretive about it. They don't. Sometimes they're even blindfolded when they deal with. Anyway, it's something mysterious that I wouldn't be very at all concerned about. What's important to know about Jagannath? It's not what Jagannath is, what Jagannath's made of. It's who Jagannath is. He's Krishna. That's all we want to know. We want to fall in love with Jagannath. He's none different from Krishna. He's just in this amazing form, and there's lots of stories in shastra we can talk about why he took that form. But we just want to fall in love with Jagannath, and that's all. When Lord Chaitanya, why did Lord Chaitanya fall in love with Jagannath? Because he was in the mood of Radharani. And in that particular Leela, he had a chance to pull the cart from one place to another in the mood of that he was pulling him, that he was Radharani, pulling Krishna back to Braj. Why did Radharani and the gopis want Krishna back in Braj? So why were they so hell-bent in getting Krishna back into Braj, back into Vrindavan? They had to have him. Why? Why were they so determined that we have to get Krishna back in Vrindavan? I'll give you a hint. It had nothing to do with the gopis. They had no personal interest in it. It was all about their interest in Krishna. They knew that Krishna was the happiest in Vrindavan. They instinctively knew that this is what Krishna really wants, is to be in Braj. And they were going crazy to bring him back to the place he loved the most. And Lord Chaitanya was in that mood of Radharani pulling Jagannath back. Jagannath is none different from Krishna. He is Krishna, just showing in this particular form. That's what we want to know, not what's his substance that was moved from here to there, and what version are we going to hear of it. If it was important, we'd have heard about it from Prabhupada. Prabhupada told many stories about Jagannath, but never mentioned it. At least not in his books. And everything we need to know is in his books. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Gurudev, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right. We have an interesting question here from Carol. And she's saying, what significance is there in intuition? Yeah, what do we do with intuitions? How does that... Anybody want to take a shot at this? How you might answer this question? Tirtha Prabhu?
Well, it depends on how one defines intuition, but
I was thinking the same thing. So let's define intuition.
but for me, when I speak of intuition, I'm talking about divine promptings within. I mean, Krishna is living within us. God can speak within us. And so that's how I think of intuition.
You know what? Excuse me. Maybe I'm jumping the gun. Carol, will you define intuition in your question? Explain the question. Yeah. What do you see as intuition?
Well, it's
Give me
just this.
give us some examples of intuition that you want to know about.
Sorry, I'm a little bit stumped because it is kind of broad, thought process with this. It's hard to define, but I think that you started to with that kind of divine. I don't know. It's almost like you get this feeling. I get this feeling. There's no words. There's no actual thoughts. It's just, oh, okay, got it. I don't know how else to explain it, but the more I sort of have tried to push that feeling away or say, oh no, you're just overthinking things. I guess I just have these spontaneous sort of almost like a burst into the future, and then I'm come back from it. It's kind of odd, and then maybe I'll go into the world and sort of what I had thought about plays out, where sort of people say the answer that I thought they would say or move about in that same way of, it's almost like I'm having a deja vu, but I'm not. It's like I've projected it somehow.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of sorry to be so wordy, but it's just sort of a
That's
surreal
good.
feeling. It's very surreal. And I just didn't know if there's any significance to it. So
That was pretty clear. That was pretty clear. Somebody look it up. Lakshman, Prabhu, you're right there at the computer. What is computer? And then I want to hear from Tirtha. I want to hear what Tirtha Prabhu, what his realizations are, and how it's, because he sounded like he was going nice and lofty. What's the dictionary say?
Here's
The
one.
ability to, oops,
Go ahead. Go
Pablo,
ahead.
go ahead. Oh,
Uh,
the ability to understand or know something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning or analytical thought.
mhm.
Tirtha Prabhu, did you also look it up?
Yeah, yeah, it's basically that same definition. It's like a way of knowing something that you don't necessarily have empirical data on, but somehow you know.
And I think Carol said that. That's basically as she was going around. That's what I got from Carol. So Tirtha Prabhu, what are your thoughts on answering her question?
Well, I'm definitely influenced by Christianity, and we believe that God is living in us and can speak to us from within,
Mm.
and that there are times where, but there's caution to it.
Yeah,
And in the Christian tradition, and I think in the Vaishnava tradition, which, yeah, there's caution to it. So we, in Christianity, we teach that the Holy Spirit, which in Bhagavad Gita we would call the Paramatma,
uh-huh.
the presence of God living in us, uh, the Holy Spirit, the Paramatma, can speak. But how do we know who
Right.
we're, how do we know who we're hearing? How do we know? And so this is what we're taught. You always correlate it with scripture. If you always correlate it with shastra, it isn't going to go against shastra. It's not going to go against scripture. We also teach that it is good to have a spiritual teacher that we can bounce this off of so that it's not just about what's coming to us. We can bounce this off of a spiritual teacher that we trust, which is somewhat like the guru system. And there are definitely times where I know something and I know it comes from God and I compare it to scripture and so it's important to have a balance with it. I have known people and I knew someone, for example, in Hawaii who relied so strongly on intuition that they disregarded other sources,
Mm.
and it led to them doing some things that were harmful and out of balance.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, I basically say the same thing. Now you were taking it from a religious standpoint. I was also thinking that even on an everyday label, like I may have an intuition that even though the weather, and they weren't really calling for great weather, I had this intuition that it's gonna clear up and be fine. I mean, I can't check with Shastra. We can get intuitions about. I have a feeling if I take this highway, the traffic is going to be there's going to be an accident or something on that. I'm going to go a different way. You can't. There's nowhere else to go. So where's it coming from? It could come from. It could come from our mind. It could come from our purified or impurified intelligence, or it could be coming right from God. We don't know. So I liked that Tirtha immediately, as soon as he started speaking, he said, he didn't say much, he said, but with caution. And that's the critical key thing is that we can't trust it. Now, I would say that someone who's really highly, highly evolved spiritually they're like Prabhupada, for example, and I'm sure Jesus. They were hearing directly from God, and they know it. They could look over and talk to him. Actually, even Francia's got a pretty cool. She seems to have a cool connection, but there's a point where Krishna will be talking to us and will know beyond any doubt this is Paramatma speaking. But I'm not on that level, so far from it. So, yeah, sometimes I'll get a thought, but not. I can't 100%. My answer is the same as Tirtha Prabhu's. I can't. I can't trust what I'm hearing. I've got to look at shastra, or just say, if you told me the weather's going to clear up, I got this intuition. I can't check it with shastra. There's nothing I can do. So, all right, maybe I'll go with my intuition. And sometimes it turns out pretty well, but it also may not. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much all I can say. Can anybody else want to add anything to what we deal with intuitions? Because I think everybody gets them. Mm-hmm. I think that's normal, and they're coming from somewhere. They're coming from our mind, our intelligence, or they're coming from God. I can't think of any other sources. Maybe somebody has a spouse that's left the world and there's communicating with them. I don't know. That's beyond my jurisdiction.
Gurudev?
Yeah.
I have a brief question. Could we say that this answer would duplicate also to dreams?
That's a great question. The answer is yes. Now, Prabhupada did confirm that his guru came to him in dreams, but Prabhupada was on like a really high level. And he said, Bhakti-siddhanta came to him in a dream and I think more than once, and told him to go to the Western world. And Prabhupada, that was real. Personally, I don't trust any of my dreams. I mean, I get screwy dreams and, or I had some dream where I was on an elevator and Prabhupada was on the elevator, and it stopped at a certain floor, and I forgot I got out or Prabhupada got out. I mean, that was it. So what's the meaning of the dream? I just dreamt about Prabhupada. I didn't put any weight in it at all. So the best thing is, shastra, sadhu, and guru, especially if we're dealing with spiritual matters, spiritual intuitions. Then I think that's as far as we can go with it.
That's helpful. Thank you.
I don't know if that helped at all or not, but I think we would all agree. Don't take note, but don't, as Tirtha Prabhu said, with caution. Proceed with caution.
Thank you.
Proceed with, the key word is caution. I like that. Okay, and then we had a really interesting question from Francia. Okay, she's discussing her frustration. You said it's okay for us to read this, yeah, Francia?
It's okay. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My question is how you and other devotees transcend the duality of happiness and distress. In chapter 1 of the Science of Self-Realization, it says, this happens by surrender to the Supreme Person. And then she's saying, I think I'm surrendering and connecting with Krishna, but I sure do experience the duality throughout the day. For example, I was distressed yesterday when Michael, her husband, endorsed a check with teeny weeny markings. By the way, Michael has Parkinson's disease, yeah, and he's declining mentally and physically. Okay, so that's very distressing. Imagine you're taking care of your spouse, I met Michael, he's a good guy. Tirtha Prabhu knows him. Yeah, I mean, he's good energy, good vibe, likable, kind of guy everybody likes him. But he's declining, and it's difficult to watch him decline. For example, I was distressed yesterday when Michael endorsed a check with the teeny weeny markings. This morning at breakfast, he was so bent over at the table, I couldn't straighten him. When I leave him, I find myself trying to balance myself, but it's hard not to react with distress as I watch this good man deteriorate. So, how is it? First of all, it's all normal. A Vaishnava feels compassion, which is painful to see someone in distress. It's the one pain that devotees feel is compassion towards others. And you're watching someone who was played a beautiful part in your life deteriorate, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, all I can say is that what you're feeling is normal and not unhealthy at all. But as we advance more into spiritual life, we start to see things from a more distant angle of vision. And that is, Michael really isn't Michael, right? He's just someone playing the role of Michael in this lifetime. It's kind of like a bad dream. When this part of Michael's dream is over, he's gonna go on. Now he's been to the temple. He loved it when he went into here in Honolulu. He went to the temple. He loved going in to see the deities. Am I right?
Yeah, right.
So he's got some good deposits in his spiritual bank account. And when Krishna decides to take him, he's in great shape. He's going to be in great shape. So we have to see the positive and the fact that it really isn't exactly what it looks like. And understanding there's some karma involved, why he's going through this, but he's finishing up that karma. And it's still painful, but it's not as painful as it was if you didn't understand anything about spirituality and seeing things in their proper perspective. I was talking with Carol yesterday, and I was discussing how I was a devotee for, what did we decide, 40 years or something, 30 years when my mother passed away. It was painful, but not as painful as it would have been if I didn't know that she really wasn't my mother, and she's on her, there's some karma, she had Alzheimer's disease. And I just saw it from a whole day. I was always thinking growing up, if my mother dies, I just won't be able to function. Even as an adult, I was so attached. I was all about my mommy. I had this great, great, great mother, and I loved her like anything. And my mother passed away when I was 50, literally my 50th year, just after my birthday. It was very doable. It was very doable because of my spiritual understanding. And I was, in one sense, glad to see her go. The Alzheimer, she wasn't herself in that stage. I mean, my mother was the kindest, warmest, most gentle person. But this whole different personality started to show. Things that were totally uncharacteristic of my mom. So I was, it was like a blessing in disguise. I was so sad she was gone, but so happy she was gone at the same time. So that's my answer to that question. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Some of you deadheads that didn't have a question. Who's got something? Now I know that Parampara is, oh, he's like question. He's never without a question. He can,
Gurudev,
he's
I
like a
have one
magician. He
question.
can pull it out of the hat.
So, Gurudev, my question is in regard to this Independence Day that we celebrate July 4th. So, what does true independence mean? What exactly is independence? How do we see material independence? How do we see social independence? And how do we see spiritual independence?
Repeat the last part again. How do we see?
How, social independence in meaning in terms of country, society, and the norms we have developed, and material independence meaning possession of resources, having possessed that we feel we have a purchasing power in the world and we can buy our time independence, and the spiritual independence, because then everything will go away. That which we are connected to will really be satisfying, and that can take us where we can
So
go.
we want to be independent of Maya and totally dependent upon Krishna. We want to declare our dependence on Krishna and Guru and Shastra. We want to be totally dependent in that sense. But we want to be independent of the control of our mind, of our mundane mind, the uncontrolled mind. We want to be completely independent of all the dirty things in our heart that have been plaguing us for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. We've been controlled. We want to be independent of the modes of nature that are forcing us to act in so many ways. There's a verse in the Gita where Krishna says, Nahi kaschit chamamapi jatu tishtanta karma krit karyate hyavasa karma sarva prakriti jargunai. Let me translate that as best as I can. Nahi kaschit chamamapi jatu tishtanta karma krit. Nobody can remain without doing something. Jatu means like even jatu tishtanta karma krit. That means karma means to do. Nobody can not act. The nature of it's like an electron. It's always moving. The soul is always acting. And nobody can refrain from acting. But Krishna describes in that verse, karyate means to force, to be forced. Karyate hyavasa karma. We're forced to act. What are we being forced by? Sarva prakriti jargunai, by the modes of material nature. Our karma has set us up with the modes of nature affecting us in a certain way. The modes of nature are so strong, they're pulling. We have no independence. It's forcing us to act. Donald Trump, for example. I mean, he's so controlled by the modes of nature. Remember, he's a pure devotee deep in his heart. Deep in his heart, he has the same love of Krishna, and Krishna's in his heart. Krishna loves him as much as he loves us, and he's in his heart. But he's being forced by the modes of nature to act this way, that way, this way, that way, this way, that way. We want to become freed from that. We've been a slave to our senses. We want to be freed from that. Imagine how the slaves felt when they had the emancipation, when they were set free. Of course, it may not be a perfect history, but you got the idea. We've been a slave. We've been a slave to the modes of nature, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And we've been forced to being someone who we're not. This pure devotee he turned somebody into Donald Trump. Or just some ordinary person that just doesn't know even who they are, not a clue. We want to be independent of that and totally dependent on Krishna. Now, when we depend on Krishna, Krishna's going to take us back to a place where he will make us think that he's dependent upon us. Or in some cases, we may be dependent upon him, depending upon where we go in Vaikuntha, etc. Krishna plays the role of Narayan, of God. He is God, but he's still loving. And people that want to serve him, they love him. But Krishna, if we go back where Krishna lives, which is where we really want to go, then Krishna will make us feel that he's dependent upon us. And as you've many times heard me say that Mother Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj are thinking, Mother Jasoda say, if I don't feed him, he's going to die. He takes that role in Vatsalya Ras. So is this clear what we want to be free from? We're completely controlled right now. We're not now, but it's still there. Doesn't your mind want to drag you this way and that? Don't we feel some envy, some jealousy, some greed, some unnecessary anger, or some conceit, pride? We want to become freed from those things. And all we want is like the gopis, all we want to do is please Krishna. Anybody else want to say something in that regard?
That's a beautiful answer, Gurudev. And, going back to the original question about what one would ask of the desire tree, mine is for pure love of God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Praying.
Thank you for bringing that back. Her
Praying.
answer, the first answer she gave
Yes.
was nothing wrong with
Phenomenal.
that answer.
Right.
Guru.
Right. And to have that pure love. And so all those things you are listing are some of those anarthas, those things in the heart that prevent us from that pure love. So real independence is being able to love
Yeah.
God fully, to love Krishna. Yeah.
And it's already there. It's not something it's already there. We just have to remove the covering. We don't have to learn how to love God. It's already there. It's just covered. But once we get rid of these, become freed from the modes of nature and freed from all the anarthas. By the way, artha means something of value, and anartha means something that of no value. Actually, it's negative. Anarthas. We want to get these things out of our head. And once we become freed from that, and how does that happen? It really happens by showing Krishna that we really don't want these things anymore. And we show that by our sadhana, by our purification, by chanting, by hearing, by coming together and churning, vibrating spiritual sound vibration. Then by the blessings of Guru and Krishna, it all comes. The independence comes. And I think we're all starting to feel some independence. We're starting to feel just a little bit that we're not 100% controlled, that we have, as you always hear me quote the verse, Mam chiyo vipacharina bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitaitam brahma boyaya kalpate. By engaging in devotional service, mam chiyo vipacharina bhakti yogena sevate. Bhakti yogena seva means service. Sagunan samatitaitam. We become freed from Brahma, and become freed from the modes of nature. Saguna, the gunas, tamas gun, rajagun, sattva gun, they're all contaminants. Sagunan samatitaitam, we become freed from those that control us. And Brahma bhuyaya kalpate, kalpate means to come to. Brahma bhuyaya, we start coming under the spiritual plane. But it's not like a light switch. It's off or it's on. It's like a rheostat. And slowly, slowly, slowly the light comes. And that's how we're advancing in our spiritual life. Okay, we're past our time. Thank you all so much.
Well,
Is this a good time for you to speak, or do you need a break?
me?
Yeah.
Oh, I could. I appreciate the prayers for my heart ablation surgery I had 2 days ago, where they treated. I saw the looks like radar, with the different colors, but I could see all the areas of the inside of my heart where they create little pinpoint areas of scar tissue on the wall of the heart to stop atrial fibrillation. And looked like looked like a country that had been bombed. Just lots of places where this energy had gone to create these little places of scar tissue. They could treat 80% of the area that had atrial fibrillation, which is a type of chaotic heart rhythm that can be dangerous. And 20% he chose not to treat because, and I, when I wrote Gurudev in a text, I don't like this word, and I'm still praying on this, wrapping my head around it. But the electrophysiologist, the surgeon, said that this 20% has heart disease, that it is, in his view, permanent damage that cannot be corrected. And he believes it's been there for a long time. And it's close to the nerve center of the heart. And if he did treatment on that area, it would damage the nerve center, and I would need to be on a pacemaker to keep my heart rhythm. And so he thought that's too much of a detriment, not enough benefit. They're always measuring them against each other. And but that 20% he could not treat, he measured it, tested it. It would go into AFib for several seconds, no more than a minute, which makes this much, 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 much more manageable. He inserted a loop recorder, a monitor in my chest. The battery life is 5 years, so it will measure what my heart is doing. He's recommending a PET scan or MRI of my heart, uh, wanting to find the best ways to treat that area of the heart and he showed all of this to me on the special photography uh, to treat that area of my heart. But I'm very, very grateful that I've gotten this primarily treated at this time. I'm very, very grateful for Jesus was very close to me in all of this. He's very close. And I know that your prayers and Guru were with me. And so what this all leads me to is an even deeper realization of what are my priorities. What is it that I most want to focus on in my life? that every breath, every beat of my heart is a gift from God. So how do I want to prioritize that time and not mess around? So anyway, that's where I am.
Okay, so I tell you what,
Thanks for asking.
let's stop now. I'm gonna end the meeting, but Tirtha Prabhu, if you don't mind, after I end the meeting, sign back in, and then you and I can talk privately.
Well, or you want me to just stay on?
Uh, okay, well, I think, let me see, got to stop the recording. Hold on.
Yeah.
Recording. I don't see how to. Not sure where it shows to stop it. I'm just gonna make it easy. I'm just gonna end, and then I'll meet you back here.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you all for being with us. Srila
Good to
Prabhupada.
see you, Francia. You and
Thank
Michael are in my prayers. Thank
Haribol.